I told you it was going to get lively. I wasn't wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Which seat would you like, Emma?
You're in charge.
Oh, you sit there, I'll sit here.
Sit here?
Yeah,
Okay, no problem.
Right.
Wow.
So, Emma, as mentioned in my intro, the gender gap in the male-dominated hotel kitchens is huge. Just 6% of Michelin-starred restaurants are led by women. Not one woman on the Hotelier Middle East top 50 executive chef power list. And I used to work on that publication. I would have changed that. Tell me, why is this? Why is this the case?
Okay, so I think we need to rewind a little bit, and people are going to go, is she mad? So Louis XV of France, he vehemently opposed the idea that women could cook fine cuisine, haute cuisine.
It's his fault then, basically.
Yeah, well, we're going to blame Louis XV. After all, he's a man. No, I'm joking. And it seemed the world agreed. And then in the 19th century, a lot of the hoteliers in this room or the F&D people will have heard of George Augustus Escoffier, who he's known for modernizing the Brigade de Cuisine. And when he came out of the Franco-Prussian War, he made the Brigade de Cuisine, and he basically used the code and conduct of army rank and file. So he codified the kitchen in the rank and file as he'd known in the Franco-Prussian War, which is why you have this system of rank and file in the kitchen that is, you know, very, very clear, linear, going upwards infrastructure, codified by uniform, complicated title, and ultimately the toque, the chef's hat. And, you know, we are still in restaurants and bars and hotels, kitchens to this day, working with this system based on rank and file in the army, based on unreasonable discipline in some cases. We need discipline in kitchens. It's a hot environment. There's a lot of equipment. Accidents can happen. So we need discipline, but we don't need rank and file, authoritarian, a scary environment. This is not what people want to work in. So it was kind of an intimidating environment that really suited a masculine, and in some cases, we know there has been a bully boy or bully girl in some cases, you know, environment in the past, and we know that the industry is moving past that. So that's kind of like, I think, where we are. It's not been seen, you know, it's been seen as hard work, not necessarily an environment that is suited for women. And let's say this is the past. You know, I've gone all the way back to Louis XV and I've gone back to the 19th century. So that's kind of where, that's history in a way.
Yeah. And so would you say that really is still the barrier to entry for women in culinary leadership then? Is it really history and legacy, or are there other factors that are coming into it these days?
Yeah, I think barrier to entry often is awareness. You know, I think women feel, I think they are a bit intimidated by that environment, but also I think that women feel that if they go into culinary, at some point they're going to have to choose if they want to become a carer, or they want to do something else in their life, or they want an increased work-life balance. And that's the same for men as well. And I think as an industry, we have to raise awareness around training, development. We have to raise awareness around flexible working. We have to raise awareness around career breaks. We have to create back-to-work good campaigns. You know, I speak to a lot of women, and in culinary and chefs, and they basically tell me, I mean, I've stood there and spoken to women who have told me that they have to leave because they want a family, or they don't want to have children because they feel they can't continue to be a chef. Now we have to be practical, but we also have to work. And you know, in Hilton, for example, we support the hotels. We're about to launch a big flexibility playbook in the Middle East and Africa. We already have flexible working patterns, but is that message going down to the shop floor? When I get down to the shop floor and speak to women chefs, I think they feel it's an all or nothing
Right.
career.
Yeah.
And we have to change that because we've got a huge manning crisis. I even use the word manning. We've got a huge...
It's so entrenched, isn't
Yeah,
it? The words we
exactly.
use. Yeah. Yeah.
We've got a huge labour management issue, and, you know, we are not tapping into 50% of the world's population.
So it's really getting the message
counterintuitive.
out to, you know, young students as well. You know, the people that I talked about in the Arab Youth Survey, 73% were women, Arab women who were young and wanted to be in the culinary arts. So it just shows you there's the willingness there. It's like there's a disconnect, isn't there, between the message the industry is putting out about what they can offer and, you know, the demand. There's a gap there. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that survey because, I mean, you've just thrown it in today, and thank you for that. But it actually leads to something. You know, I recently I've been in Saudi quite a bit, and we know that Saudi is a key market in this region, a key growth market. It is our Middle East and Africa's biggest growth market, and in terms of pipeline, it's Hilton's 4th biggest pipeline market in the world. So we know we're going to need a lot of good chefs. We know we're going to need some talent there. And interestingly, I recently visited, and I think 35% of the culinary team in Hilton Riyadh Hotel and Residences, which is a huge property with a big kitchen team, 35% were Saudi women or Arabic women, and very, very young women coming into culinary. And really, I mean, working hard. Our executive chef, you know, was like, these women are, you know, they are not shying away from work. They're putting in the hours, they're learning, they're keen. And also, we partnered with a Saudi-invested college called Bunyan. And Bunyan, it means growth in Saudi, and it's backed by the Public Investment Fund, and it's associated with l'École de Lausanne. And we have got, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's in excess of 100 students that Hilton are sponsoring going through Bunyan, and a lot of them are young Saudi women that want to go into culinary. Interestingly, I'm also a board member for Dubai College of Tourism, and our culinary program at DCT is always massively oversubscribed, and to the point that they've now doubled last year, and they're looking for expanding that. And interestingly, we have some fantastic Arabic women that we are profiling as our sort of, if you see it, you can believe it, you know, as examples of women who are really making it in culinary. But we've got a long way to go.
So it seems like, you know, working at grassroots level, that's where you're really going to see the change happen. Yeah, interesting.
And not overnight. But we have to start somewhere.
But somewhere like Saudi, with starting from a blank sheet, and you've got that talent waiting, it certainly helps, doesn't it? You've just talked about that program, but I know that you've got some other programs that are spearheading change. So tell me a little bit more about those, because they focus on this arena, don't they?
Yeah, well, you know, one of my roles is strategy and development for restaurants and bars at Hilton, and you know, one of our key pillars, our 5 guiding principles, is, you know, attracting, recruiting, and retaining key retail talent. And you know, I'm conscious that in a post-COVID world, we had a global shortage in culinary, and 3 years ago, I did an interview with Paul Clifford at Hotelier when the Power 50 list had no women on it. And he was kind of getting a lot of backlash from the industry. And I came out in an interview and kind of said, look, don't blame the messenger. And then the following year, I was really proud that actually there were, I think, 3 or 4 executive women in the list, and a couple of them were Hilton executive chefs. And then this year, this happened. But anyway, I was spurred on when I did that interview with Paul, as I say, I think it was about 3 years ago. I said, but I commit, Paul, now that I will put my money where my mouth is. And we started on a journey. And, you know, Hilton's a big organisation. You can't just go, right, we're going to employ more female chefs. You've got to have a strategy. So I, first of all, pulled the numbers for the first time ever. And in my region, I've got about 6,000 chefs in my team. And about 1,000 of them are women.
Right.
So I worked with a DE&I expert company in the UK called Inclusion In. They specialise in DE&I in hospitality, tourism, leisure and retail. And we got them to survey anonymously. We got the contact details for 1,000 chefs supported by our executive chefs. And I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. Out of 1,000 chefs, of which most of them we didn't have their direct email address, so we had to go through the executive chef. How many responses do you think we got back? Bearing in mind, we know what standard survey responses are.
No idea.
We got 842.
Wow.
Inclusion In said this blew their mind. It was more than they ever expected in such a survey. So we then
hit the mark then.
Yeah, we went into, we got all the results from them. We then did focus groups. Again, we kept it away from Hilton, and then they did one-on-one executive chef interviews with women who have become executive chefs within Hilton, and also men. And from that, we got a load of data. I set up a team, which I lead with Executive Chef Sebastian, which is supported by Hilton's diversity and inclusion strategy. And we call it the Hilton Chef Inclusion Programme, because we're starting with women, because we do believe that we're not tapping into 50% of the world's population, and we need more chefs, and we need to fill our talent pipeline. So we have a whole programme around L&D, awareness, communications, recruitment, training, development, and we are looking at culture. I've got a lovely lady called Nicola Wilton in the UK who heads up and we have a work stream of about 30 or 40 people on this team across Hilton, and we are working on specific concrete actions to drive. We've got our 23 plan, our 24 plan, and 25. We have a vision to achieve 50-50 gender parity in our kitchens. It is a bold vision. We're sitting at 6% at the moment, but at least we know. You know, I would call out how many big global hospitality businesses know what percentage of their kitchens are led by women executive chefs. So we were at 6%. We're now at 8%. It is our vision to get to 50-50. I take a big win recently. Every year, Hilton has a Hilton Mentor program. We've never, ever had women chefs being put forward for this because it's a global mentor program. This year, we had 109% increase on women chefs put forward for this program that they've ever had. And we actually had more women chefs than we had mentors identified. So the message is getting out. I visit hotels now, and I'm becoming like this little, I don't know, I'm like the Pied Piper. I have all these women chefs come running out, and they speak to me and stuff. And it's great, because a few months ago, people were saying, we don't want to be called out, you know, we want to fit in, But now they're the messages got out, you know? And I started to talk about things like, you know, how would you feel if all your career you were codified, you taught the language, you were spoken to like a man, and also you wore a uniform, Braggart and all these people, you know, you wore a uniform that was designed for men. They've now come out with these unisex uniforms. We took a woman and we put the uniform on her, and it just doesn't fit. You know, they're too. That's why women chefs always look, unless they get tailored uniforms, they wear them so big because they're too big on the shoulders and the bust, but they need them to fit the hips as a rule. Women chefs, you know, let's call it out. Women chefs that hit menopause, the uniform makes them sweat. It's uncomfortable. They've got no choice of cut,
don't want a hot flush in the kitchen, do you?
No, you do not want a hot flush in the kitchen and then sweaty uniforms. They don't have a choice of shoes. They have to wear shoes that are too wide for them. So imagine going to work every day as a woman in a uniform that's designed for a man.
Yeah.
You know, these are the things we've got to change. You know, and somebody said to me, "Oh, what are we going to do? Make chefs wear high heels?" I was a bit like, "Hello." This is not what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So these are the things that we can do.
The menopause subject's quite interesting. We could do that another time, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
We won't today.
No.
The 50-50 goal, have you put a timeline on that? When do you think it's achievable by?
I need to come back to you probably in a year on that.
Do you think it will snowball, though, the more?
Yes, I do.
Because it sounds like you've had success in a short amount of time.
I know we're running out of time, but basically we did the measurement, and what we saw was of that 1,000 chefs in my team, right, At entry point, we recruit about 20% women
Right,
at entry
okay,
point.
yeah.
What I notice is at first level chef de partie, that falls by 50%. So somehow from recruitment, we lose 50% of the women.
Right,
It
okay.
fell to nearly 11%. It then held on to junior sous, and then executive sous and above, it fell to 6%.
Right.
So what we need to do is we need a strategy, and this is what I'm working with our recruitment team and being a royal pain in there, you know. We need more in, we need more to fill the bucket, we need more women coming in. We then need to induct them, train them, look after them so we don't lose them along the way.
Yeah.
We need awareness. We're now putting promotions, advertising them in the staff cafeterias. That's another thing we found out about, that people weren't aware of promotions. And interestingly, another thing we found out about, guess which sections in the kitchen have the most women chefs in a hotel kitchen? Which sections do you think? I'm going to ask the audience. Pastry?
I would have said that, yeah.
Why? Because it's cold and pretty and delicate. Yeah, you're right. And what else? What? Cold kitchens? No. Pastry. And interestingly, breakfast and staff cafeteria. And it came out that the reason that it was breakfast and staff cafeteria was that was the area that they felt was the only place that they could get flexible working hours, because breakfast is breakfast and staff cafeteria was a place that wasn't as high in demand. So we're starting to get all this data, you know. So now we want to look at cross-training, you know, and there will always be fantastic cake artists, both men and women. And, you know, if it is delicate and it is a skill set attuned to women, but the reality is women need to feel that they don't have to, you know, be in the background in breakfast or be in the background in staff cafeteria, and that we can get them into hot section, that we can get them into other parts, you know, we can get them to become chef. And the final thing we're doing is, you know, the seeing and the believing. We are now heroing our chef de cuisines, our chef de parties, our executive sous, and, you know, I'm pleased to say that we've gone from 6 to 8%. We've just recruited a brilliant executive chef for our Waldorf Astoria and Platt Island, Jane. We've been trying to recruit her for years. I'm delighted to have her on board. So we're going to grow our own, and we're also going to attract. So if anybody knows any great women chefs that are looking for a role, we're happy to speak to them at Hilton.
Yeah. So we've run out of time, but finally, I mean, what, you know, if you had like a grand vision, I'm sure you have, you know, not just for Hilton, but the industry as a whole, what would it be for women in the, you know, the kitchens and in the culinary arts?
Right, that the Michelin Awards would be 50-50 women. World's 50 Best would be 50-50
And it shouldn't even have to be, because sometimes they do a women's list and a men's list.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that way, should it? No.
Yeah, they talk about, you know, what was it, Sheryl Sandberg said one day there won't be women leaders, there'll just be leaders. One day there won't be women chefs, there'll just be chefs.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what I hope. And, you know, if all I've done today is spark a conversation, you know, if the Hilton Chefs Inclusion Programme, but, you know, I'm actually blown away with the energy that I'm starting to get from some of these female chefs, you know, and I get the sweetest notes on Instagram. I mean, I don't deserve them, it's all my team, but, you know, I get, you know, like, oh, thank you, Miss Emma, you know, you've made me, you've changed my life, you know, I feel, you know, because, you know, we also have cultural barriers in certain parts of the world, which we can't get into today, that we're having to be quite transparent and speak to executive chefs and say, we need, you know, because it's come back in the survey, we need to work on this in your kitchens.
Yeah.
So it's started. It's an acorn at the moment, but I'm really, I know it'll become an oak tree.
But the important thing is that you have started it, and well done, Emma.
Thank
Congratulations.
You. And thank you to my team.
Please give Emma and the team a big round of applause. Wish we had more time.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for staying.